I used to like survival mode, but recently my opinion on it has been shifting. I think that survival mode ruined Minecraft. To understand this seemingly bonkers take, we have to go back to well before survival mode was added. History. Minecraft's original name was Cave Game. This was back during the first alphanumeric versions of the game. This seems irrelevant, but the name Cave Game has really had a long-lasting impact on Minecraft's development. The Cave Game started with only creative mode in 2009. It took another 4 years for survival mode to make its way into the game. The only reason it was even added was to test creative features in a survival environment. However, later, Microsoft would get involved. After they bought Minecraft, they started trying to make the game appealing to new players. They started advertising survival modes as the main way to play the game. Survival mode was then turned into what was basically progression mode. Achievements were added, and a new boss mob, the Ender Dragon. Now remember that distinction. Old survival mode was for testing, and was never meant to be the main mode. New survival mode is a progression mode that is the main mode that the game is now designed for. For the rest of this video, I will make sure that you remember this by calling new survival mode progression mode. Now, remember how I said that the name Cave Game was important? Well, it never really had an impact before progression mode, but I think that it had one surprising effect later on. The 1.18 Caves and Cliffs update. Unlike the Cave Game, 1.18 was completely designed for progression mode. 1.18 is almost universally hated for the terrible terrain changes. Do you notice something? When progression mode was considered, everything was ruined. Now, this was just a quick history. I might even make a follow-up video to explore this history more in depth. But that is all that you need to know for now. Now, I will get to the point of the video, and I will tell you why progression mode sucks. Reduces creativity. Many people will disagree with me here, but the simple truth is that creativity doesn't mean challenge. There are so many 100 Days YouTubers who accomplish amazing things in progression mode, but imagine how much better those bowls would be if they were in creative mode. Imagine that you are an architect and you have to design a house. The house will look a lot nicer if you have infinite resources, compared to real life, which, like progression mode, only has limited resources. This same logic applies to Minecraft. I can't understand this stupid argument that a lack of resources increases creativity. That's just not how it works. Think, people, think. As well as reducing creativity, progression mode also uses more of your free time. If you live on Earth, which I'm assuming most of you do, the day is roughly 24 hours. If you spend all of that time in Minecraft in progression mode, you will waste a large chunk of your time on Earth through collecting resources. However, creative mode doesn't have this problem. You can enjoy all of your time by building new structures. Progression mode doesn't just take more time, it also forces you to go on side quests. Imagine that you want to visit the Ender. Progression mode forces you to visit the Nether beforehand. The side quests aren't at all connected to your main goal, and they are rather confusing. However, creative mode allows you to go straight to the ender and start playing around there. You can be so much more creative without the extra hassle of side quests. Now, if that wasn't enough for you, there are also the bad updates associated with progression mode. Everyone hates the 1.9 combat update, and that was completely due to Mojang trying to balance the progression mode. Let's talk about the 1.18 update again. Mojang completely ruined the mountains for creative players in the name of defending the interests of progression players. They also didn't add many new blocks for creative players. The only blocks that were added were very bad for creative players. You could easily accidentally place a powdered snow block instead of a regular block. Many creative players that I know lost weeks of progress just because of this one bad game decision. 1.20 was also a terrible update. It tried to make progression mode more fun, but in doing so, it completely ruined creative mode. That sounds crazy, but just remember the terrible changes to the creative inventory. They made it very difficult to find items in the inventory because all of the tabs are different. Camels are also very annoying for creative players because they get in the way of important activities like building and terraforming. Creative players also hate building in the desert because of its dry color palette. This is why I don't think that there should have ever been a desert update. Now, I decided to debate a progression mode player just to prove that I am right.
Yo.
Hello. So, why do you play progression mode?
Isn't it called survival mode?
Doesn't make a difference. Why do you play it?
I don't know, I just like the grind.
Why don't you like building?
I love building. Why do you ask?
You don't really do a lot of it.
That's because I play in survival mode.
Exactly. You'd enjoy playing in creative mode a lot more.
You know what? I think you're right.
Of course I'm right. I'm always right. If you still disagree with me, don't worry. You made it to this point of the video, so you aren't unreasonable. I want to make the argument that progression mode isn't as feature complete as creative mode. Some blocks still haven't made their way into progression mode, like the coding block. Coding blocks are absolutely essential for a complete Minecraft experience. How can you make cool builds without cool particle effects? Even though every update is completely focused on progression mode, it still isn't even a complete Minecraft experience. This is because progression mode was never meant to be in the game. I find it absolutely disgusting that Mojang never adds any new features to creative mode. None of the new updates are focused on redstone or blocks anymore. Progression mode also increases the very real problem of item bloat. There are so many useless items that ruin the game's performance. These items, especially the thick, mundane, and awkward potions, completely ruin my enjoyment of creative mode because they only work in progression mode. Item bloat is only a problem because of progression mode, but it is such a big problem that it deserves its own video one day. However, I now want to talk about the very real issue of Mojang promoting progression mode. I think that they have purposefully tried to make creative mode's performance worse. This is because they chose to have the same performance in both versions, even though they know that you will naturally need better performance in creative mode. This can be very clearly seen when you do a comparison, like the one I'm doing now. You can clearly see the difference in performance between the two. Now, after watching this video, you may have noticed that I don't like progression mode very much. However, I dislike it so much that I think it should be deleted entirely. I will explain this in my next video, because I have a lot more reasons to dislike progression mode. In fact, my most important reason is only coming in the next video. Stay tuned and subscribe if you want to hear more.